Hello and welcome to EPR with your favorite environmental enthusiasts, Nic and Laura. On today's episode, Laura and I talk about video games. We interview the three Otters about Orcas, VR gaming, and their epic interactive video game called Found in the Fjords that follows the life of a particularly precocious orca named Nora. And finally, since our interviewees are also known as the three Otters, here are some fun otter facts for you. Baby otters are usually called pups, but can also be called kits or kittens. Adorable. Female otters are called sows, and male otters are called boars, because that makes sense. Otter groups are called a family, a bevy, a lodge, or a romp, which is also hilarious. The latter is the most common term for otters on land. So I guess we even have terms for when they're in the water or not. So how about that? And a group of otters in the water is most often called
adorable.
A raft. Hit that music. Registration for the 2023 American Cultural Resources Association conference is now open. Register today on their webinars and events page at www.acra-crm.org. In lieu of a sponsor this week, we wanted to provide an update for those of you that have been following the Maui situation. As many of you know, I work for a Native Hawaiian corporation, and this hits a little closer to home. So we did want to give a couple of options for folks to donate if they so choose. Our company has come up with a list of nonprofit organizations that are accepting donations to help the victims in Maui. We will put their websites up on our feed for everyone. So first up is CNHA's Kakoko Maui Fund. Then we have the Hawaii Community Foundation's Maui Strong Fund, Kamehameha Schools, Holoa Maui Fund, Hawaii's Red Cross, Maui's Food Bank, Maui United Way, and Kanu Hawaii. Those are the ones that our company has vetted. And if you are interested in donating, please do consider any of those many options. For those of you listening in Hawaii, the Blood Bank of Hawaii is in desperate need of blood and plasma donations to support burn victims. So please do check out their website. And last but not least, for those of you who are able, numerous organizations across Maui, including the Maui Humane Society and the Salvation Army, are seeking volunteers to support their efforts. If you are able to give your time, we encourage you to visit the Maui Nui Strong website to view the list of volunteer opportunities. That's mauinuistrong.info. mauinuistrong.info. There's so much that must be done to support those who have lost everything. We are committed to doing our part. So please, if you are able, join us in sharing aloha with our Maui Ohana. And with that, thank you, everyone. And let's get to our segment. So yeah, did you ever play video games, Laura? Or Morgan?
Yes.
Either one of you?
Yeah, Morgan, do you play actual games?
Not really. I played like Mario Kart. Was fine at it,
Girl, didn't we all?
Yes. Nothing too intense. But I'm not very good at video games because I get really impatient. You have to take the time to learn all the little moves and the backstory. And that's why Mario Kart works for me. I'm like, point A to point B, that's simple enough. But when there's a bunch of backstory and it's complicated, I just lose interest too quick.
That's fun.
Yeah,
that's
same.
funny.
But I grew up playing all kinds of games because I grew up with like the end of Atari and then Sega Genesis, first Nintendo. And my brother and I used to play like Bass Pro something and Mike Tyson Punch Out.
Yeah.
And
I think I know what you're talking about.
Sonic the Hedgehog came out was like huge because that was the first like fast paced, super bleed game.
ADD in a nutshell. A to B, fast as you can.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot of Mario. And then I had friends who were super hardcore gamers and like we would hang out all night while they played like Resident Evil. But I just watched it and didn't play. Although I did at one point, I knew my fingers knew how to do all the buttons for kicking someone's butt in Tekken 2. but there was no actual, skill in it. It just happened. I was good at it.
Oh, it's so funny. Like my brother and I played a lot of games as kids and all the same kind of thing. Loved Sonic, did all that. But we also got Mortal Kombat and like other fighting games. And I just realized at one point, a very specific moment when I was playing. I'm like, man, this is not I don't like this. Right. And it's really my brother who hasn't played the game at all. And I'm like learning how it plays. I'm learning all the moves. And then all he does is just high kick me to death. And he's just jumping and kicking me in the face. And I'm like, there's a way to do this, to fix this so that it doesn't happen. But I don't know what it is because there's no internet. There's no nothing. I'm just like getting hit in the face, trying to not get hit in the face. And just I was like, you know what? I have to, again, it's like I have to figure all of this out. And it's taking way too long for me to enjoy it. So yeah, I kind of weirdly still love like that there's like the stories now with the fighting game, which is kind of hilarious. And that always cracks me up because it's like watching a really bad B movie. Like it's just so trashy and wonderful all at the same time. But yeah, I mean, there's still like, heck, my brother and I have tattoos, matching tattoos for Mario 3. So I'm player 1, he's player 2. And
That's
you know,
really cute.
I joke that I should get like the little Mario man and he should get the little Luigi because that's like I was always number 1. You know, I wouldn't. And it's so weird. I was like, no, I'm first. Even though I liked green better as a color, I liked Luigi, but I was like, no, I'm first. Very older brother of me, but yeah, Zelda's big. I still love Zelda. I think Zelda's awesome.
Yeah, my friend, there's a whole is it a documentary or something out about why people just go crazy for Zelda? I can't remember what it's called, but my friend is currently reading it because she's diehard Zelda. Like if she could marry Link, she would marry Link. The kind of person who's like, oh, that game Zelda about like Zelda's not the character.
Yeah, exactly.
I got yelled at for that reason multiple times in my life.
I know. It is very funny. And like, someone asked me the other day if the Zelda games are still trying to like rescue the princess kind of thing. Because that's definitely how they started. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's different. Like the most recent one, spoiler alert, is just at the beginning of the game, Zelda disappears, but she's not in need of rescue, if that makes sense. You're not trying to rescue her. You're trying to defeat evil. And that's the whole point. So that's a little different, but she's also disappears. And she still pops up here in the story, but it's just kind of funny. It's like they can't write a game that has 2 characters in it. I don't know why. I don't think it's that hard to do, or even like, why not? Like, what's the challenge here, Nintendo? But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's still a great game. I love just having a task and being able to complete it, and there being some kind of challenge, and it kind of calms my brain down when I'm playing because I have to focus.
It's distracting, but in a productive way. It feels good when you get the princess at the end of the
Yeah, it is very funny how far those have come. I think even the Mario games don't do that anymore.
And how far games are going. So like our guests are 3 women who are working on a VR game that they based off a trip that they made to Norway, and they were diving with orcas doing research in the fjords that evolved into making a virtual reality game. So it's really, really cool. I'm excited to hear about their backstory with video games. Like, how do you, if you never played a video game, did you just like jump in and start doing this? Or is this like environmental awareness meets video game nerdness? I don't know. Yeah,
I'm excited to find out too. That'll be really fun.
Cool. Let's get to that interview.
All right. Hello and welcome back to EPR. Today we have the Found in Fjords team on with us. We have Dr. Louise Edwards, the team lead, Aya Walraven, the technical director and sound director, and Tiffany Duong, who does story design and is the producer of Found in Fjords. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you.
Well, Tiff, I'll start with you, and then we'll get them to confirm. So how did you guys all know each other?
So we didn't actually know each other until we all coincidentally joined the same all-women's expedition to Arctic Norway last November. The goal of the expedition was to snorkel with wild orcas. And we all happened to be there, for our own various adventure-filling reasons, soul-filling reasons. I was lucky enough that Lou was my random roommate for the pre-trip planning part. And I met her and I was just like, oh, she has so many brilliant ideas and just to, make some kind of a game. Sounds cool. And then we got on the ship and Aya was coincidentally Lou's random roommate on the ship. And they bonded together about like tech and life and all things awesome. And we proceeded through the expedition just following a little bit more in love with each other at each moment. And by the end of it, we were ready to embark on this new adventure.
That is super cool. So, okay, Dr. Lou, what was the trip like? What was the point of the trip? Why did you guys do it?
Well, the trip was all centered around kind of a combination of science, art, technology to the Arctic fjords of Norway, where we were looking to complete some projects really centered around orca behavior. So the orca come to the fjords every year following the herring, who kind of hang out there waiting to spawn. And because they're tasty and juicy and fat and nutritious, all of the things that eat the herring, including humans, come kind of to the fjords to have a big smorgasbord of yumminess. So interestingly, like Norway is the only place that allows kind of snorkeling with orca. So part of it was one of the major studies there was for us to kind of collect footage to understand how the presence of snorkelers is impacting behavior of orca, really to kind of put together some data that can be used to inform regulations to protect kind of the ecosystem. And then we were doing some other environmental DNA studies and some other kind of physical oceanography stuff. And there were photographers on board and an art program. So it was really this combination of really a diverse set of driven, excited, interesting women all coming together in this place on a boat to hopefully do awesome things.
Oh, so Tiffany does this thing when she comes on the show where she just makes me insanely jealous. It's like what she does. It's just like every time I'm like,
that's why we keep inviting her back.
And it's just so crazy. I don't just like orcas. I love them. I think they're awesome. Like it's like one of the first animals I really fell in love with. So I'm going to start with you. The trip itself, just from the orca perspective, just what happened on this trip? What did you guys see?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't come from like a background in marine science or anything. And I really went on this trip really just to kind of explore some ideas for a career change. And I wanted to, get involved in ocean science in some way. So I don't have any particular, strong feelings for orca before the trip. But I knew that we had, various sort of snorkeling opportunities and chances to watch them. And so maybe it was the second time that we went out, we all, put on our dry suits and we ride the Zodiac and head out to where we know that the orca will probably be. And we kind of drop into the water very quietly and try not to disturb anyone. The first few times, wasn't so lucky. I'm focused on trying to get a good footage with my GoPro and, there's a lot of logistical things to worry about. But yeah, the second time that we went out, there was this kind of I would say like a parade of orca just kind of going right by you. There were maybe, I think, at least like 8 or 9 of them, all kind of moving together as a family or as a pod. And most of the time, you'll see them kind of go past you or under you and they don't really pay too much attention. But this time, one kind of stayed behind a little bit and kind of looked at me and I thought, well, that's kind of cool. And so I thought, maybe I'll kind of mirror its movements a little bit. So it was moving, to the side and looking at me while it was doing so. So I thought, okay, I'll do the same and mirror the movement. So I kind of turned to the side and snorkeled in one direction. And then I thought, okay, maybe I'll switch it up and go the other direction. And then the orca is, following me and does the same thing. And it mirrors my movements this time. And the whole time, like we have kind of our eyes locked on each other. And it was just the weirdest, like, I don't know, I don't consider myself to be a very like emotionally in tune person, but like it was just a very like intense moment. And yeah, I think when that happened, I kind of like when I got up above water again, and I was just so excited and screaming, and not really screaming, but I was just like very, I don't know, just really elated. Yeah,
it's incredible. I mean, did you guys have similar experiences? Was this all at the same time, or were other people? Did you guys all have different ones?
I think we all have like different experiences. Personally, I was not lucky enough to have that kind of interaction with anything that Aya did. I mean, I think both for hearing that story for both Tiff and I was just hearing it was quite impactful. But right. And for me, my most intense emotional experience came with a comb jelly. So we're just totally different. There was just all of this thing happening, and I just became like captivated by this comb jelly just floating past. So, very different, as you would expect. not quite so active an engagement, but still but definitely impactful and like Aya's experience, found its way into the game in one way or another. So we all had very different experiences, but I think Aya's was particularly profound.
Man, I'm so glad I started with her. That was, I did that. I totally knew that. No, but I think it's really great that you guys got to do this. I love that it brought you guys together. So what is Found in Fjords? Tiffany, why don't you start telling us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So Found in the Fjords is a VR experience where we're trying to bring you into the world that we got to experience together in real life. And our player starts as Nora, a baby orca, migrating to Norway to learn how to feast on the herring. And it focuses on education and empathy and really giving people a window into this world. And then when they leave that window, some actions they can take to protect it. So it was a very intentional game throughout its design and throughout our entire process of making it. Intentional with a lot of goals to hit, but also with tons of love and everything infused by our real world, like emotions and experiences. Like they noted, Aya's eyeballing with the orca, that made it into a pivotal scene. I mean, how often do you eyeball a wild orca?
Yeah. That's
like never.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
and Lou's comb jellies are a game guide throughout because they were captivating.
That's so great.
And we tried to mirror the thing that captivated me was actually just the immensity of the setting, like this orangey sky, because there's 3 hours of daylight a day. So you see the sun just whoop and rise and set. And the whole time it's this orangey fire sky with dark mountains with snowy, kind of like our beautiful backgrounds.
Yeah.
And it just feels epic. So that's what captivated me. And, we were able to design that into the game.
And so, okay, Louise, when you guys have this experience and you're like, hey, we should make a game. Is that how it started? How did this conversation roll?
I've been kind of getting into this whole VR thing for a couple of years now. As a high school chemistry teacher. I've had a few careers, but at the time I was a high school chemistry teacher, and I just saw all these opportunities for educational VR. And as an earth scientist, it was really like, oh God, there's a lot of things that we can do to help educators, to help get this sense of empathy and awe to help us make, I guess I did my brand that I kind of say to myself is I'm in the business of developing a profound relationship with the planet. And that's kind of where this all kind of came from. And so I heard about this competition that the UN was running called Metaverse for the SDGs. So it's to develop virtual worlds that align to one of the Sustainable Development Goals. And all of the things that I was doing at the time had definite connections with the SDGs, but not one. So I was like, well, I can't, where does this fit kind of thing? Right. And then this opportunity to go on this expedition was just so perfect for life below water and telling this story. It's inaccessible to so many people, but so profound a place. Yeah. I was like, wow, what an opportunity to tell a story using immersive technology. So I went with the distinct goal of making something in VR from it. Like that was my main personal goal, but I knew I couldn't do it on my own. So I kind of went scoping. So part of it was scoping for a story, and I was scoping for a team. And I pinch myself most days that I was able to find these two, to be honest, because they're so amazing.
That's so great. And so Aya, after you vigorously sipped your tea after that wonderful experience and bragged about it to everyone, which is, you had to. I won't hear otherwise.
I won't lie. Yeah.
When you first start getting this idea, okay, how am I going to be involved in this? What am I going to be doing for a game? Because they're really complicated. There's a lot of stuff that goes into game development. So what were your thoughts?
I thought, what better way to have a really impactful experience than through games? I play a lot of games myself, and I really love sort of the immersive storytelling types of games, or kind of the more interactive story types. So this was really exciting from that perspective, because I wanted to do this kind of work for a long time myself anyway. And I come from a background mostly in kind of emerging tech. So I've done work in augmented reality before, and also with Web3 and blockchain tech. So I mostly focus on product design user experience and also some of the coding and infrastructure work. So I thought, okay, I can bring my tech background to the project. And I thought it worked out well. I have never done any stuff with Unity, which is the platform that we use to build this experience. But it was the first time for me, but I was hopeful that I could bring some of the computery things to the team.
That's so fun. And see, just to prove how much of a nerd I am, when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, Unity, totally. Yeah, I'm with you. I got it. Can I do anything with it? No, but I know what it is. That's so that's really, really cool. So there's also, I want to get to a story about Three Otters, and we'll dive back into the game, but that's kind of like your next phase or whatever. But how did the name come out? How did the name come to be?
So this is my favorite moment of the whole experience. And I think it's a couple others. Our Zodiac captain, Debbie, who is also Orca expert extreme, just fabulous woman. She, after a very successful day where we saw, Nic, thousands of Orca and humpbacks. Also, let's throw some mantas in for you. After a really successful day of encounters, she let us just hang out in the water. And, we're in our dry suits. So imagine a whole boatload of floaty Michelin men just like bopping.
Yeah.
And you've got like the orange sky that I'm obsessed with. You've got these like massive, impressive mountaintops with snow on top. So it feels like you're in this like snow globe of Arctic epicness. And then there's like orcas cruising by. You see like dorsal fins sometimes. And we're all just playing in the water like kids. Like we forget like everything else. Yeah. And I think Aya took a moment to just like absorb it all. And she like lay on her back with her fins up like a sea otter, and just like hanging. And then Lou was like, ooh, friend opportunity to hang out. She like glommed on, and they like sea ottered together with their flippers up. And our whole team was like, oh my God, the otters. And then I was like, just off by myself, taking it in. And like, so that moment, they became like Otter 1 and 2. And then I friend glommed on, and I was like, I want to see. So now we're the Three Otters.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
So cute.
Yeah. So Aya's the powerhouse here. She's the driver. She's got this.
It's Otter number 1.
Otter number 1. Yeah. I love it. That's really cool. And like, okay. So we're talking game development. That is something that takes a lot of time, energy, and effort. You have the idea already. So how do you come up with a story? How do you work together to make this process and move forward? So it's not just an idea, but it becomes something real.
So when I have the least tech experience. And so I was like, what I think I can bring to the team is storytelling, because I just write about the oceans like 24/7 ad nauseum. So I was like, okay, I can like try to bring some of that in. And I was really, really moved by Aya's eyeball experience. We'll have to find a better name for that because it just doesn't count.
It doesn't sound great.
But the eyeball experience with the orca.
Yeah.
Like,
Aya's eyeball.
I think Aya, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you were crying when you came up from it because you were just like so moved in the moment. And her telling of it like brought me almost to tears, just like that intense connection. Yeah. And it made me immediately think of like a sci-fi kind of body warp situation. And so I thought, why not start the game as an orca, and then you have to learn all the things about an orca, but because you're embodying it, you actually, you have to learn how hard it is to eat, how hard it is to avoid a fishing net, what it's like to echolocate and try to find your family in a dark ocean, all that stuff. And then we bring in the eyeball experience when we have snorkelers who are actually modeled after our actual teammates on the expedition, drop in the water, and you Nora the orca eyeball with Aya stand-in, and then you have this actual body warp, spacey sequence, and you become a human, and then you proceed through the end of the game as a human. You see that your flippers change to hands, and you climb up the Zodiac, and you end up back on our expedition ship with a real 360 video that Lou took. And so that's kind of helping graduate you out from the game into 360 video. And then eventually when you take your headset off, back into reality, and your final scenes are these calls to action, which align with the SDGs and with just sustainable practices for the ocean and for humanity. So, things like reducing your carbon footprint, lessening plastic, eating sustainable seafood, things like that. you make a choice, and then it shoots you an email if you put your email in with more information about this choice that you have committed to for, your Orca pod and your human pod. And then you have the opportunity to learn about all the other commitments that you can make through click-throughs that lead to our website. So we're really hoping that, we bridge that gap through this game of VR to reality and what you're seeing and what you can do.
Yeah, which is great. I didn't even think about this. Like, what are the motions that you do in the game? How do you even, what are you doing? Are you swimming? Are you chomping? What are you doing?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So you move around your environment and you go in the direction that you look. So you can, if you're on the surface, if you just nod your head, you will surf along the surface of the water, which is my favorite thing to do. So also you get to eat the main kind of gamified element of it is eating fish. So you have to learn at each different thing, the different ways that you feed. So one of them is a carousel feeding scene that Tiff described. So you have to learn how to slap your tail and you'll feel it shake and you'll stun some fish. And then as you get close enough, they turn pink and you can eat them. And you get these little sounds that say, nom, 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 that was tasty. And we've had all of the voices have been provided by team members from our expedition. So the Orca mum is one of our colleagues, Ash, and Nora, the Orca, is her daughter. So it's all these really kind of cool little things that kind of go into it. So you can go, you have to slap your tail and you have to move around, you have to eat little fishies. And that's basically the kind of the interactions of the game and essentially what you have to do.
Yeah. Oh, that's super cool. I love the idea, and but I really want to know, Dr. Lou, if she pitches you this idea and you're like, I'm going to have to do so much work to get this right. Kind of hey, all right, awesome, let's go.
I have a problem that has been well documented with lots of projects that I have taken on is that I am so blindly optimistic about how things will turn out. I never, ever expect things to be as hard as they actually turn out to be, which is bad and good. Mainly it makes me do cool stuff, but also I get halfway through and say, what was I thinking? So thankfully I was always going to say yes. Though I have to say, it's a testament to Tiff and her great ideas and the way she explained it. Because I was pretty resistant to the Orca thing to begin with. Because, imagine I went in, I had these ideas kind of going in. This was a plan. I knew I wanted to build this story. And I've only ever done this on my own. So having a team was really new to me and letting them and relinquishing some of that creative control was something I really struggled with. And it was hard. And I don't think I could have done it with lesser collaborators. And I was like, I don't know if the movement's going to feel good. Are we going to make people feel sick? Is it going to be really difficult? How's that going to work? So I was pretty resistant to this, but the way Tiff explained it, and just to shout out about her again, because she's not going to say it herself, but she had no experience writing nonlinear storytelling, any of this beforehand. I recorded a couple of videos from inside VR games just to kind of show her this is what VR is. Yeah. And within 24 hours, she had this beautiful, well thought out, cohesive storyboard of this story we could tell. Who are you? Who are you? Which is basically the question I've asked about these two for the last 6 months. Who are you? And it's been just glorious. But it was, so the idea, I think, coupled with the incredible ideas and the way that they were explained and the blind optimism that I live life with, and the presence of really good YouTube videos that help you solve any problems. At no point did I think, oh, wow, we can't do this. Throughout it, I think we've figured out that is a nice to have that we shouldn't do now. But I think we just went in with this really positive yes attitude that I think has really created a game that I hope we're all super proud of, because I think we've really achieved something cool.
Yeah. So, all right, Aya, to you, is she telling the truth, or is there some? No, I'm kidding. So have there been any challenges, honestly, with because obviously it's still a big effort. Any challenges you guys have faced?
Sure. I mean, I think there were a few. First of all, by the time that we finished our expedition, we all have to say goodbye with each other. And that was probably challenge number one. It's like just having to part ways. But yeah, we were, I think, pretty good about being able to organize all of this where we all live in different, time zones and different parts of the world. So that was probably the starting challenge, is kind of organizing all of that to begin with. And for technical stuff, I mean, I don't know. I think we just came into it very prepared. And a lot of the things that we have in the game, like the designs for the characters and the world, like the environment, it all comes from real data and images and resources that we collected while we were there. So that was fine. But yeah, like I said, for me also, it's like, I think for all of us, it's kind of a first time making this sort of nonlinear type of experience. So we all kind of went into it with not really sure what to expect, but we're all, I think, very happy. At least I'm very happy with how it turned out.
So how close are we to release? Is it done? Have you guys worked through this already, or you still have more to do?
The game is absolutely playable. And I would say we'd probably call it like an alpha version. Yeah. And we're ready to start having some other testers give it a try. We have a few friends and family who have kind of had a sneak peek, and we've gotten a lot of really important feedback from them. So we're hoping to kind of finish or do this alpha round of testing in the next month, and then open up for beta and finish the game and make it like a final, with the bow all done and wrapped up by the end of the year.
Oh, that's so cool. That is super cool. So it's a VR game, then you need to have all the VR headsets and everything else to do it. Is there another way that you're going to put this game out? Is it going to be simply VR? I shouldn't say simply. Is there any, plan after this as well?
Yeah, I think accessibility, is a big thing for us. I think we all care about people being able to access this and other experiences like this. So while we have built it as an immersive virtual experience that is actually built right now for the Quest 2, the way that it is built, like what we have chosen to do within Unity, makes it what we would call platform agnostic. So we can build it to other things. And I think all of us would like to have at some point a version that would be available on a 2-dimensional screen that would just make it wouldn't have the same impact perhaps, but still gets you that experience available to many more people. Because one of the reasons we wanted to build this in the first place was to be able to give more people that really visceral, emotional experience. And not everybody has access to this hardware. So we would like to make it that way, but it's not something that happens overnight, unfortunately.
No, I know. Man. So that's still though, it's like one of those things it's really incredible. And like, I'm like super jealous again for a different reason now. So usually it's like, nature related stuff, but I love video games too. I really do. I haven't played them. When Tiff told me about the idea, I was like, I can't talk to you anymore. Like, this is it. That was the end. So we're close to getting beta testing out. Is it going to be on PCs? Is it going to be on, I know that, PlayStation has these kinds of things too. How are people going to be able to access the platform, the game?
So right now, as I said, it's kind of designed for the Quest 2 headset, the Meta headset. So we will attempt to get that on the Quest store, but that takes some time. So really it will be, but you can actually put other applications on the headset. So it's likely that we'll host it on some kind of platform like Itch, where people can kind of access it that way and then put it on their headset. And I imagine as we go forward and release for other platforms, we would still kind of host it certainly initially on some platform like that, where people could then download the file and load it and run it.
Yeah, which is really, really cool. So, okay. I guess from your backgrounds, right? So you have some history in doing this 3D design. Were you all big gamers? You have different levels of experience. I'm looking at Tiff right now and I can see, I already know her answer, but like, what's your experience with all this? And Tiff, we'll start with you.
I have no experience. I was telling them the last game that I remember owning was Duck Hunt, with the little gun and the little, hey, dog,
the dog making fun of
you. Duck Hunt. Yeah. So I have like no video game experience, not playing, barely watching. So it was really different. And it's so ironic and like amazing the way that life works, that this is like my favorite like creative project that I've worked on. Like life's just funny like that.
Yeah. Oh, 100% for sure. But Lou?
Yeah. So I didn't grow up a gamer. It's something I've kind of discovered later on because I am married to a massive gamer and a really thoughtful gamer. Like when Aya came to visit a few months ago and met my husband, they could have just talked about it for hours, I think. So thoughtful in the like really looking for deep storytelling and the mechanics and kind of how kind of the anatomy of video games that cause that emotional punch, that flow state as you're playing. And so that was having that as I kind of fell into this was really interesting. He's a great resource. And he bought an HTC Vive back in 2016, which was one of the earlier tethered VR headsets. And he put me inside that and I was gone. It was a game called Budget Cuts where you throw knives, some like robots that look like Bender from Futurama. It's like super low poly stuff. I'm like ducking and getting around and I was just like blown away. And from that moment on, all I could see were opportunities. And then he subsequently got me into gaming because it's how we socialize. He lives in a different province. So we kind of will play games and kind of talk to each other. So that's, it's kind of become more of my life, but it certainly isn't something that I grew up with at all. But I think it's just the things that are being made in games, both in VR and on other consoles. And like, it's incredible, the storytelling and the impact that's happening.
It's funny to think because, like, you know, I say Laura and I were talking before this show, like that, you know, I was like original Mario, like I literally have a Mario tattoo, and so does my brother. He's two. I'm one. He's two. It's like adorable, right? I couldn't help. Yeah. And it's like, you know, it's like Rescue the Princess. That's the story. The end. And now it is so much more dynamic. You see games like, you know, like Last of Us is a TV show many people have heard of. That game, that story, like melted my brain in so many different emotional ways. But yeah, so I totally agree with you. I think it's really cool to see that and to have somebody like Tiff, who's a great storyteller, also bring that element of it is really, really cool. But I mean, so does that mean Aya is the number one original gamer? Is that what I'm hearing?
Possibly, yeah. I think when I was like 5 years old, I was borrowing my parents' like 386 computer and was playing the original Duke Nukem, you know, around kindergarten. I also was like really into these like text-based games back then. So like, you know, it was pre-modern internet. It was all just like telnet protocols. So you would send into like this BBS and like it was a multi-user dungeon, like a MUD type game. So I was really into those. And as I grew up, I just continued playing games nonstop. And so it kind of feels cool to have started out with like text only and work my way to 2D and then to 3D. And now I have like, you know, VR now.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Seriously, the fact that you guys met on this expedition is really just insane.
I know, right? That's ambition too. And I love it. But you guys are all in different time zones, right? So you say that. So where is everybody? I know Tiff's in Florida. Where are you, Lou?
I'm in BC, British Columbia.
And I'm basically where they filmed all of Last of Us. So I'm in just outside Banff National Park in a town called Canmore. Yeah.
That's so cool. I mean, are there any challenges with working, like, you know, like say in different time zones, or has it kind of been pretty nice to have more hours, you know, to work on things? Yeah.
I think we've made it work. Like it has been a challenge because with some work schedules that have been a little bit anti-phase, shall we say. But the nice thing is Tiff is a couple of hours ahead of us, but she also tends to work into the evening. So
yeah,
it's been mainly fine. We found the right time in the afternoons that kind of suits us. And we just always meet at that time on a Tuesday. And beyond that, we have a very active WhatsApp chat. And we were lucky enough to be able to all come together here in April. And what was really mainly a social weekend, but we were able to kind of come together, and Tiff got an opportunity to put the headset on and do some kind of early testing. And we were able to kind of have some of that that stuff that really you only get from being face to face. But largely, I think we're in a world now that we're all got really accustomed to working in different time zones and workshopping the things we need to do together and doing the things on our own that we need to do on our own and coming back together. And I think really what's overcome most of that challenge, certainly for me, is the level of trust and respect that I have for these people has just made it so easy for us to just be honest, give honest feedback, receive honest feedback, move forward, make decisions. And I think that has really allowed us to manage all of the difficulties of proximity.
Yeah. Wow. The Difficulties of Proximity, a book by somebody. I like that a lot. I definitely want to ask more about some of the environmental things and some of the aspects of the game itself too. One of the things, and this is just a nerdy gamer question, right? Like, I've seen a huge shift in independent games, right? Like over the course of the last 10 years, there's been an explosion of developers being able to do what you are all doing. And was that an inspiration for you? Is that one of the reasons why you're like, oh yeah, we can definitely do this. Look at all these unique and interesting, wonderful games that are coming out, and they're getting platforms all over, not just VR, but like on the Switch, for example. There's all kinds of places where indie games have found an audience. Is that something that was inspiring for the team, or is it kind of like you would have done this no matter what?
I was not really inspired by that because I only really discovered that after I'd already kind of fallen into this rabbit hole. Like it was really, I came from it very much from a creator perspective in that, like, as an educator, there is a gap in being able to share these stories. This is an incredible medium to share these stories. And then the pandemic hit and I had some time and money, and someone presented me randomly with the opportunity to learn how to do it. And it was almost entirely circumstantial that kind of got me onto this pathway. And then I discovered a weird love of coding. And as I said, I had quite a few careers, and all of them I've either had to sacrifice the creative side or the technical side or the science side or some bit of me that's really important. And what I found was is that I could do everything. Like I could be creative with the 3D modeling. I could be technical with the coding and understanding the physics and all of the math. And then I could also tell these stories about these science ideas and concepts that have always excited me, while also working closely with other people and kind of helping people learn. So it was just every single box I had, suddenly there was this thing that ticked it. So that's really why I have gravitated towards this. And then I have subsequently learned about all of these other things that are being done, which are now inspiring, but they weren't the things that kind of pushed me into it.
Yeah, I know. I got you. That's great though. And like, so Tiff, with the story itself, what are you hoping people get out of it? What do you want from it?
I mean, super baseline to understand how rich and nuanced orcas are. Like, like their name is killer whales. I think it's really easy to have a very certain, almost circus-y vision of them because they're at SeaWorld or, right, whatever, attacking yachts. But what we felt and what we are trying to convey is that like orcas have just as rich of a culture as we do. Like these ones eat in a certain way, the same way that like my family might use chopsticks or a certain recipe for egg rolls or something, right? They have their own demonstrated culture and ways of eating and ways of communicating with each other. And so I would love for people to leave feeling more oneness with orca.
Yeah, which, totally on board with, by the way. So, like I say, that's great messaging. It's really exciting to hear that this is happening. I'm curious, Aya, for you, and I'm asking all of you, so just be prepared. She's getting put on the spot because she had the experience here. So you had this orc experience. It's incredible. Is that also something like this that you've done before? Were you big into the environment? Was this like your first big step into it? And why now, if it was?
Yeah. Career-wise, it's never been really a part of what I do. I mean, I'm mostly, in tech and very more drier environments. But as a hobby, though, I do really enjoy spending time at sea. So I do a lot of freediving, fishing, snorkeling, all kinds of any kind of ocean-related activity. I'm usually doing it at some point on the weekend or on the weekday. But yeah, I've never, I mean, when you're in the water with orca, it's like, apex predators. That's kind of a very much of a first experience. And I think just that whole ship lifestyle of like being on the vessel and helping out with a lot of the experimentation stuff as well was just really fulfilling. And as soon as I finished, the expedition, the trip, I decided I need to do this like a lot more and make this part of my work. So I actually ended up deciding to quit work, and I'm hoping to continue as much as possible working with these brilliant two other otters on other kinds of VR and other, whatever we come up with next. But yeah, that was a first, and I think it really solidified for me. Like, this is what I need to do.
Yeah. Oh, that's very cool. The Tiffany model. You're following a Tiffany model. That's so awesome. I'm really glad to hear it. So all right, Lou, you say you have all these different jobs and like all this different history and all this different background. So you've got to have some environmental experience, maybe some field stories for us or something like that.
One or two. Yeah. So I went to university to study geology and then ended up foolishly deciding to do a PhD because I became obsessed with volcanoes at quite a young age.
Yeah.
And that's basically all I wanted to do was study volcanoes and kind of understand the relationship between our planet, natural disasters, and humans, but really kind of got driven down more of the science, pure science side of things. And really, I think I realized kind of about halfway through my degree that essentially we were all there because we wanted someone to pay us to go camping. And and that's also kind of why I signed up for this trip, is because I needed another adventure and I wanted to go back into the field. So field work has kind of been a pretty important and formative part of my life. I met my husband on teaching a field school. Mm-hmm. I have slept in a tent that I was scared was going to get trampled by camels in the Australian outback. I have fallen in very hot volcanic mud on the island of Socorro in Mexico, which I didn't realize has subsequently become a dive destination, but I got there hitching a ride with the Mexican Navy on a World War II minesweeper. That then did a handbrake turn into port in Manzanillo. As it's like there's been some stories involving rattlesnakes.
This is important. Bears. I want to hear this one. Yeah.
So I was on doing field work in Canada, actually, but this was while I still lived in the UK. And I just hear this like blood curdling scream. And my friend is like running with her trousers round her ankles, and she'll hate me for telling this story. Sorry, Katie. My friend, she's running up. She says, "Oh my God, a rattlesnake just tried to bite me on the bottom." And we grew up in the UK, so there's nothing there that can kill you. So we were just like,
right.
We'd come into bear country and the rattlesnakes. And so she's like running up this, and I can't not laugh at all, like, because it's hilarious. But then not more than 10 minutes later, I'm at an outcrop taking notes. I sit full on a massive cactus, like both sides, both buttocks.
Oh.
And I'm like, and I can't get this out on my own. So I am fully reliant on my friend who I've just spent 10 minutes laughing at, trying to remove this cactus from my rump. And so she's laughing, I'm laughing. Every time we laugh, this cactus is inserted further.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And this is like 20 years ago now, and it's still very, very, very closely very fresh in the mind. But yeah, so I mean, field work is such an important part of my life, and being able to, and jokes aside, being able to go to all these places and develop this relationship has been incredibly instrumental in developing me as a human being and my feelings towards the planet. And like after academia, I moved into climate change reporting and management on that side, and greenhouse gas accounting, and have kind of always had that in the side of my brain. So it's been really important part of my life. But I also recognize the damage that we can do when we go to these places. Yeah. So finding a way that we can share the wonder of the planet in a way that is which is more accessible and less destructive, has really been something that has kind of been a thread that has gone throughout everything that I've chosen to do. And it's been nice to have some cool stories to tell along the way.
Right. Yeah, that's how you get them in. You know, you also could bit right on the butt, and yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a fair point too. It's like I think there was like a photo going around like a couple of years ago about trash on Mount Everest, and you just never think about it at all. But there's people there going all the time, and it's a dangerous environment. So what do? They eat the thing and they throw it. You know, I can't have this, and it's crazy. You're totally right. It's like one of those big things.
I remember going to the Banff Mountain Film Festival about 5-6 years ago, and there was some mountain bikers that were just mountain biking, sponsored by Red Bull or whatever, and mountain biking down this loess in China, the most delicate ecosystem, just for fun, right? Just to get their kicks. Yeah. And I boycotted the festival for a few years after that, because it's like, these are not the kind of activities we should be endorsing in these places. This is irreplaceable ecosystem that we shouldn't just be ripping up with some mountain bikes because we want some adrenaline rush. Yeah. And but how do we still get this message across and not just hide it away from people, but have that value without that negativity? I was deeply affected by that 8-minute film. Like was really damaging. It's just so damaging, right?
Oh gosh. You know, it's like there was a project I worked on in Hawaii, and it was basically, hey, this pipe is leaking. We need to fix it so it stops leaking. And we got protests because people were like, well, now we can't ride our four-wheelers in the mud anymore. And like what they were doing was just literally driving up a hill and sliding back down, driving up a hill, sliding back down. So it's destroying the side of this mountain. There's no vegetation left. And we're like, no, we don't want you to do that. I know it's fun, but it's like literally causing the entire island to sink into the ocean. Like that's what's happening. It's like, yeah, but how are we going to have fun now? I'm like, you're in Hawaii. There's so many wonderful things to do, you know? So I totally feel that 100%. Tiff, I know we've already asked you for a bunch of field stories, but I mean, I'm always willing to hear any and all that you want to share. And if you say manta rays, though, I may end the interview. I'm just warning you now. That's all.
My favorite my non-manta field story that I'll share is similar to the orcas. I went snorkeling with saltwater crocs in Mexico. And
what?
Have I not told you guys about that?
No, who does this?
It was so fun. It's like there's 300 permits a year, so it's really hard to get to. It's this tiny, there's a mainland mangroves, and there's this tiny little like mangrove bar. And there's fishermen's huts that have been there for 20, 30 years on these stilts. And, 3:00 when the boats get back, the fishermen, fillet their fish and then throw the rest of the body in the water. And so these crocs have learned that splash at 3 means dinner, lunch. And so they will come, and they've created this kind of snorkel with croc tourism industry where you can boat in. There's only one shop that does it. In the morning, you dive on these pristine reefs that no one's ever dove before, which is also mind-blowing and so cool. Hunting lionfish. So, ecotourism, helping get rid of invasive species. And then we fillet those lionfish and we feed the bodies to the crocs at, their known lunchtime. And we have a guide in the water. If you're scared, he has a big stick that is his, very, very large, like imagine a large chopstick. Yeah. It's a big stick. And he puts the stick and himself between you and the croc, but you just hold your breath and you sink down, and the crocs come, and it put its teeth next to my phone camera. And I have one video of it chomping on a GoPro. So, and they all have names, all known, that one was Godzilla, but yeah, it's pretty neat. And you sleep in hammocks, 13 in this tiny fisherman's shack, but it's great fun.
That is, yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's wild. That's Tiffany's middle name, I'm pretty sure. So that makes total sense. So I don't want to keep you guys too long. So you stop me, and so I can keep asking you questions forever. But, we love hearing about secret hobbies. On the show, we ask a lot about that. We know you do video game development. What else do you guys do for fun? What else gives you joy? And I guess, Aya, we'll start with you.
So I do enjoy a lot of hiking and backcountry sort of adventuring. And I also have a very, very strong obsession with salmon, but we'll get to that maybe a little bit later. But I think at some point I decided that I wanted to combine like my love for cooking and my love for, backpacking and hiking together. So I've been doing a lot of spending time and kind of foraging for wild things that are around my area here in BC and cooking out in the wilds. That's kind of been a big thing for me recently. Yeah, I really hope that sometime, Tiff and Lou can come up and visit. So we'll go on a trip together. But yeah, I think most recently it's been a lot of kind of hanging out by the river. Whenever I'm out there for fishing for salmon or snorkeling with them or just looking at them or helping to restore, their clean environment, I'll do anything but that relates to salmon. But kind of one of my dreams is to kind of have a sort of a forage and cook type of side gig at some point.
So, I mean, like, what are we making? What are you making for us? I'm inviting myself too, by the way.
Yeah. So I really like to take sort of traditional Japanese recipes and sort of methods of cooking and apply them to species that are here in BC. So it includes things like how to cure and dry things or fermentation. It also includes just the ingredients involved. So it might be sort of like a rice porridge that has a salt cured fish with it, or like a congee, I guess. Yeah. And or it might be sort of a dried vegetable, sort of cured vegetable type of things. Or what else have I made? Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is fish based, but all the more reason to protect it, because I want people to be able to enjoy these things after I'm gone too. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, Lou. What about you? What do you do for fun?
Build video games. I feel like this is kind of my recent hobby gone wild. I'm very lucky enough to live in the mountains here, just outside Banff National Park. And we're here because we love that. So I mountain bike a lot and trail run and do a little bit of open water swimming here and there. So try and keep active, although unfortunately the wildfire smoke keeps us inside a little bit over the summer. But the winter comes and then it's even more fun. I have been known to get the sewing machine out occasionally to make things.
Yeah. Okay. What do we like?
I made my wedding dress actually.
Really?
Yeah, that was many years ago. And again, this is another example of a project. If I'd have known how hard it was going to be, I wouldn't have done it.
Right.
So it's like, sure, I don't know what I'm doing. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
And it was eventually. I think I really like three-dimensional creativity. So I like randomly building really elaborate cakes, and decorating them. I made. So my husband's a pilot in the Air Force here in Canada, and when he got his wings, I made him a cake helmet with the oxygen mask. And I made him a space shuttle Discovery cake once. It happens once every 6 years, but I'll get this idea in my brain and I need to make a random cake. Yeah. So cool.
That's awesome.
I would totally both watch and then eat a space shuttle cake. That's absolutely awesome. I love that. And then Tiffany, you were diving this morning. You were diving before you even got here.
Yes, I'm currently on assignment in Jamaica. Hard life, I know. I'm covering diving for Scuba Diving Mag here. So I got sent to 3 prime locations to dive. We hit 2 airplane crashes today, casual. We were floating over a beautiful reef and they were like, oh, look here. And it was a Cessna that was carrying weed and had crashed, and the locals helped empty the cargo. So by the time the police got there, it was just an empty hull. So they were like, okay, fine, let it become because it's useless now. So it's been a good day, which is kind of how most of my days are. So it's good life.
I mean, I knew it would be a story, but wow. Come on. Oh, yeah. That's too funny. That's too funny. Like I say, I don't want to keep you guys too long. I know we have a time. I want to keep you to it. But I want to close out on just, like I say, I think it's incredible you guys are doing the game. And Lou, if you want to start, just kind of, give us some or anything else that you'd like to talk about with the game itself. Like I say, we know it's coming out at the end of the year, but go ahead and give us, another, minute or two on the game itself. Sure.
Well, as Tiff and I have both said, it's a really immersive experience that actually allows you to feel what it might feel like to surf along the surface of the ocean as an orca and learn from your mother and grandmother and get a sneak peek into what this rich culture of this matriarchal, rich group of highly intelligent animals do. And I think this opportunity to this interspecies, what do we call it? Interspecies. Embodiment. That's it. I just had a total brain meltdown. Interspecies embodiment, and then this opportunity to take that and apply it to your everyday life. There was such a powerful story for us to experience and put together, and we hope that people who play it can get even a portion of that feeling that we got from this experience. And you can find more information about it on our website at foundinthefjords.org, and we're on all the socials, Found in the Fjords. And you can email us at hello@foundinthefjords if you want to learn more. And take a little look at some gameplay videos and get a little bit of a sneak as to what you might have in store, and kind of keep in touch for updates. But really, if you want to see what it's like to be an orca, play Found in the Fjords.
Oh, I love it. That is so great. I'm super excited. I'm so glad you guys all came on, and I'm giddy a little bit. So thank you, all of you, for doing that. If there's anything else before we let you go, I will give you the opportunity. Don't worry. I just wanted to gush a little. That's all. So you guys heard where to get in touch with them, foundinthefjords.org. And thank you all for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And that's our show. Thank you to 3 Otters for joining us today. Please be sure to check us out each and every Friday. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. See you, everybody.
Bye.